What's up, buddy? Welcome, everybody, to this week's edition of the Sports Report After Dark. It is ya unfortunate boys, Seven and the Dick. We should start a morning show, man. I think.
Hey, buddy.
Do Seven and the Dick in the morning. You think
seven in the dick, and there's all these like radio show sounds to it. Yeah,
Seven and the Dick.
Seven in the dick.
On 92.3 KZZP. Seven in the Dick in the morning.
Morning mimosas.
When you want to listen to sexual harassment on your way to work, you check out Seven in the Dick in the morning.
They're like, we need bigger tits. Bam, bam. It's like that's all it is. It's like there needs to be bigger tits in the studio. Bam, bam.
That the shock jocks that they do on Family Guy.
Yes, it's weenie in the butt.
Weenie in the butt. That's it.
Weenie in the butt. Yeah. Weenie in the butt
without getting a cease and desist from Seth MacFarlane. Like, that's the line.
It's just all ridiculous shit for like 30 seconds. All it is like just digital like weenie in the butt, and they're just like sitting there not saying anything. Yeah. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Man, a lot's been going on. And did you see that Ben Simmons reported?
Yeah. Hey, not gonna say we called it, but high five.
They finally
called it.
Yeah, it was tonight. He reported today. He was getting.
I did not see that
COVID test. Yeah. They finally got him to realize, like, dude, you're not gonna get shit unless you show back up and actually start fucking putting the ball in the hole. Like,
I mean, he has no leverage at this point.
Absolutely,
leverage is absolutely gone. Like, so we knew he was going to be like, "Hey guys, so I know I can't make free throws, but I'm coming back." And they were like, "Yeah, obviously. Come on, let's fucking go.
Let's get this over with."
Joel Embiid is disgusted right now. He's like, "God fucking damn it!" Or hang on, "God fucking damn it." That's my Joel Embiid. It's Ben is my friend. Ben is my friend. Ben has always been my friend. Ben will always be my friend. I'm sorry. That's terrible. That's terrible.
That's terrible.
It's kind of good though, isn't it? It's kind of accurate.
Yeah. Okay.
Ben is my friend. Tony. No, that's. I'm getting Arab now. I'm getting Arab now.
I would say you're getting a little too like Middle Eastern general direction. And little too thick for that. Yeah, you gotta bring it farther south.
I don't know. They switch countries just in between, and right in the middle of it. My impersonations will switch countries.
You shouldn't do that because that's like, I mean, John Gruden got fired for being racially insensitive 10 years ago. So, I mean, he resigned. Let's be okay. So obviously, Gruden was one of the things we were talking about. So let's kind of work into this.
We're just gonna jump into this right now.
There's no fun.
I don't know if I'm ready for this today.
There is no fucking way that this was not a shot at Gruden. And here's the thing. Gruden said himself that he thought these emails came out by that they got released by DeMaurice Smith because he was trying to get, keep that job as the executive vice president of the NFL Players Association. And that's why they came out.
Bargaining chips.
I don't think it's impossible. Clearly, because he gave the team the heads up Thursday night that the article was going to come out on Friday. So he knew it was coming. And I'm sure some of that comes from the Times calling him for a comment on the fact that they're, the story's going out tomorrow. Hey, what do you have to say about it? But I think he's known about it for more than just a day or two.
Okay. I wanted to ask Tony and Will about this, and I don't think I had the balls to do it. To tell you the truth, I didn't. he makes, okay, so the first racist comment that he makes, the original one that was the thing, was that he said that DeMaurice Smith has lips as big as tires or some kind of like
tires.
Michelin tires. Okay.
Right.
Not only is that not a funny joke, John Gruden, that it comes off a little wrong. I get it. But okay. I'm just confused at whether that's actually, because dude, there is no way. I don't think there's any way that John Gruden is a racist. I don't think there's any way. He's been working with black men in his profession for his entire career. And so many of them, he is beloved amongst players in general, not just black players, everybody.
In general. And that's the thing is he comes off as kind of an asshole, but he's actually a player's coach.
He was mad and he didn't know any other insult. I don't think that he would, but that insult in itself, like, Tony, I have big lips.
Right.
I do. I do get there's like kind of a racist thing behind there. I can see how you could be like, but
and I think here's one of the reasons where he lost credibility. Because, like we were talking about a little bit ago, one of the things that we realized that was part of the problem with this whole thing was how he has handled it in his comments since it came out. Chief of which, his explanation for that description of DeMaurice was that he says that when people are liars, they have rubber lips. Are you fucking kidding me?
That's bullshit.
Like, and that's the thing is like, here's the thing. If you were pissed off at a guy because and the situation was for context. The situation was for context. This was when, they were looking at the possibility of the lockout and he felt that DeMaurice was not being open on his side with the process of the negotiations. He's lying. And so this is, kind of where you can kind of see what Gruden was saying about that. But at the same time, he was working in the fucking press. How can you be so stupid as to not realize that any email, anything that you say in any medium that can be recorded in any fashion can be used against you at some point? Particularly
if you're John fucking Gruden. If you're John Gruden.
And that's the thing that I don't understand about this. Because I think what we're seeing on a smaller scale, so when we look at the theory on the Deshaun Watson case, where these are all coming out because he wanted out of Houston, or out of the Texans, okay? And then we also look at this with Gruden's assertion, which it's entirely possible, that these emails came out because DeMaurice Smith is trying to make sure he stays as the the executive vice president of the NFLPA.
Right.
So, okay.
He doesn't need. Cool. I don't think he needs John Gruden calling his lips Michelin tires to like. That's not like his last. That's his last stitch effort to like stay in the. I don't know about all that
from the decision makers on that on all of that stuff. And that's where I question that, because like with when it comes to this situation with Gruden, I can't believe that he didn't know that he shouldn't have sent those emails. Because before he was working for ESPN, he was a head coach. And even D. Ross has confirmed that they have conversations with all of those players. Watch what you're saying in video. Watch what you're saying through email. Watch what you're saying through text message. Make sure that you take the condom with you. But Gruden didn't know that he shouldn't fucking put that.
But here's the thing. I don't think John Gruden's stupid. Okay? So I don't think he is. I don't think John Gruden. I think John Gruden's probably a particularly above average intelligence guy.
I mean,
he knows football.
You have to be.
Obviously, he's a fucking genius when it comes to football. Right. He's a genius when it comes to football. I think probably as an average person, he's probably of above average intelligence. That's the only defense I can give him for you saying like, oh, he has rubber. I don't even know what I've never even heard that before. Like rubber lips are liars. I don't understand what that means. But
I don't know
that. Anybody ever heard that?
And that's my question. Cause like I tried to look up to see if there was like any like history of that being a phrase in a common area or something. And I couldn't find anything.
It's not a real thing.
And that's why I don't believe that it's a real thing. But it's just like you have Al Michaels last night on Sunday Night Football while they were dealing with the rain delay in Kansas City, said himself that with all of the work that he did with Gruden, he never experienced anything that would make you think that he was the type of person that the character of that person in based on the content of those emails and the homophobic and racist and misogynistic things that he was saying in those emails. Why? Like, how can you not? I just, and that's where I keep getting stuck on. Like, the only thing that I can think of is that he didn't think he would be getting back into coaching. And, worst thing, you get fired from ESPN, you take a few years off, and you end up as a guest analyst for Fox Sports. Which is realistically, like, if he was just working for ESPN and that's what got released, we would, he'd be gone for about 3, 4, 5 years. And then he would be a guest analyst every once in a while on Fox Sports for football or maybe college football.
Okay,
but
Tony.
Now, I mean,
let's start with the conspiracy here. Why does this come out now? What about this timing? What about this timing? Why? I really don't know. I'm actually asking. I have no idea.
And that's what I don't understand. Because, like, obviously the Times is trying to grab readers. So I understand what they have to gain from
people still read newspapers. I'm just kidding.
What the I can understand what they have to gain, but like these emails were supposedly to a couple of different people, but primarily the person who was in charge of the Washington Redskins at the time, what is now the Washington football team. So it was sent to them. What do they stand to gain by releasing it? I don't think the Washington football team even plays the Raiders this year.
Dan Snyder still owns the Washington football team, right?
Last I knew, yeah.
Yeah, so, Dan Snyder, we know his track history of just being petty and full of shit. So who cares? Did Gruden piss him off or something? Like, what happened there?
And that's a legitimate question because, like, what did somebody stand? Because, like, when typically when something comes out that's a bombshell about a celebrity, you have, like, in the Deshaun Watson cases, these young women are suing him.
Right.
He wouldn't settle out of court. They are now publicly suing him. And all of this is going on. They have a financial gain.
Right.
Who gets, who's the really one that's actually gaining out of this? Because this can't be something as simple as a financial gain, and so with Gruden saying that DeMaurice Smith put this out because, of his stuff, like, that's one of the only ones that can make sense, because DeMaurice Smith is in the process of like, I guess, contract negotiations or getting voted back in to stay on or whatever it is, like keeping his job. Like he's going through that process right now.
And Gruden's theory is that he's garnering support from the black players with this story. Is that kind of
that's pretty much what it is.
Assume
Like,
that's
just garnering support from those individuals because of Gruden saying these things about him and saying racist stuff. But why is it? Why though? Like, how is this the thing that it's going to take for him to keep his job? Which I did think I see something where he is going to be sticking around, but I can't confirm on that because I don't know. I haven't really had time to look that much into that part of it yet. But I think I did see something about that, and so
him sticking around in Vegas.
No, like NFLPA, like DeMaurice Smith is sticking around as the executive vice president for the NFLPA.
Gotcha.
Or whatever it is that he does. I think it's EVP. I can't remember. I don't really care, but
we're just worried about what decisions they make as a whole. Let's be honest. Whoever's their leader, we're like, okay, just lead them. Then
just do what you got to do.
Just do what you do, like players.
I could honestly see that being the type of position that somebody like Sherman gets into after, like either like Sherman or one of those super smart veteran guys. Like I kind of think that was going to end up in that position.
Respected.
But how do you? I mean, but that's again. How do you? What was the purpose of it? That's what I don't understand. Is like, what was the purpose of this coming out? What happened that triggered it? That's my question. At
this point, you know what it looks like. I mean, it looks like what do they call them? P something. The people who they're super sensitive about terms that are used. And what's the PC?
The PC police.
Okay, I don't even know what it stands for, but I know what it means.
Like politically correct.
I honestly, now it makes sense. No, but like he's part of like Punch Chaser. No, but he like the PC community. I can't help but think this is part of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, well, we can get him on this email where he says that he has big lips, and it's like that doesn't. I've told my black friends before they have big lips. In an insulting manner? Well, I really have.
I mean, I think that there is a thing here because, like, I think it was really just said. I think that race played a part to a sense, but I think it was more like he was pissed at whatever, the situation was in regards to Smith. And so he was just insulting him to insult him because he doesn't like him for that stuff. And the big lips thing was the first thing that he could just spit it out. Because when you're insulting somebody, you're not trying to, think of something well crafted. You're trying to insult them and hit them where it hurts.
Right.
And
was it said with intent? How like was it said with intent, or was it like, oh, it's off? And from what I kind of read about it, was like an offhanded, like, oh yeah, he has it. Okay, like I get that it has an association with racism. I really get that. Like I understand. Right. Like that's obviously like that's a thing. Okay, so, but do I think that John Gruden was malicious in his intent with that comment? No. Absolutely not. I don't think he was malicious in intent against homosexuals. I don't think he was malicious in intent against black people.
No,
like I don't think that he was. That's what I'm saying. I don't think the intent was there. I think this is kind of witch hunty. It's PCE witch hunting, and it's like,
and here's the thing, and my biggest fear with this situation, and I'm sure more stuff is going to come out. We're going to go to break in a minute. My biggest fear with this situation is this: that the argument, because like when obviously with this situation you have the people that are like, oh, this is just, cancel culture and PC police and all of that stuff, and he doesn't need to be fired over it. And like I understand that, but when you have situations like this where it gets blown out of proportion,
they have to act.
The NFL and the Raiders looking at the situation, that part I completely understand. I completely understand that. But because they have to make sure that this comment from 10 years ago isn't just one string in a rope of hatred, if you will. You know what I mean?
Right.
So so I can understand looking at the situation. But when you give it so much push off of it just being this guy's an asshole. And here's the thing. I'm not just saying it that, he's, I don't think he's racist because, oh, he looks like a nice guy. No. A lot of the players that have played for him have come out and publicly said the comments were inappropriate, but they do not believe that he is a racist person. And these are people that spend extensive amounts of time with him. How much time he spent with Al Michaels while he was calling games for ESPN?
Tons. Like the stuff we're not even thinking about, let alone 3 hours a night on Monday. He is spending time in a hotel. He is traveling with this human being. Yep. Like this, and Al Michaels is not a dumb dude. He's worked a lot of
one of the things that and something that I don't think people think about is when it comes to sportscasters calling a game, okay? Regardless of the sport, when you're any type of a TV sportscaster, there's a reason that it's always Jim Nantz and Tony Romo. There's a reason that it's always Joe Buck and Troy Aikman. Because they work together, they know each other, so that connection is there, and they can work together to build the information that they need to call that game. Learning in depth about both of those teams. Aikman hopefully trying to teach Joe Buck what the hell a defensive package is at some point. Like, these are all things that happen in that extended time behind the camera that we, because we see him for 3 hours a week. They put 40 hours a week of work in, watching film, interviewing. There's media days and press conferences that they have to sit into and try to get a question in if they can. There's so much work that goes into what they do behind the scenes that makes that 3 hours possible.
Absolutely.
And so that's why I will give credibility to the belief that he is not a racist person. He is just an asshole. But how the why of this situation is definitely one of the things that's interesting. But we're gonna take that break. When we come back, we're gonna keep going with this. So stick with us right here on the Sports Report After Dark. Thank you.
Deontay Wilder's juicing.
Welcome back to Sports Report After Dark. First commercial was for Really Good Podcast, which airs every other Tuesday. Tomorrow night is one of the nights that the Really Good Podcast will air. It's 10 Eastern on the Pinfall Network, Pinfall Facebook page, and Pinfall YouTube. And also there's Pinfall on Twitch as well. Yeah. So definitely like and follow us on all of those platforms so you can stay up to date on all of the shows that we're doing. The Really Good Podcast features Josh and Kay as they dive into all things movie related, movie and TV, talking about what's coming, what's going on, news. A lot of good conversation on that one. And then the second commercial was for Geek Gauntlet Podcast, which airs Saturday nights at 9 Eastern, exclusively live on Twitch, and then runs Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. or I'm sorry, at 11 a.m. Eastern on the other, the Facebook page and YouTube. And that is Will and Shaw diving into all things geek related, geek culture, geek news, and just talking about what's going on in that world. That is hosted by Will and Shaw, again, 9 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays on the William Morgan Media Twitch page. Big thank you to repsports.com and Race Energy for sponsoring the Pinfall Network. You can use the codes GGN10, GGN, the number 10, or Pinfall for 15% off their website. Also to Gamerware for supporting Pinfall. You can use the code XXP on their website for 10% off of your order. So we're talking today about
Johnny.
We're talking tonight about John Gruden. What?
Two things. Number one, big shout out to Will Morgan. He's our younger, less freckled version of Morgan Freeman. Also, and also, we do smoke weed at the beginning of the show. If everybody else wants to just go ahead and we'll both just like sitting here like, yeah, we just do that. So if anybody wants to do that, we can take your Birkenstocks off. All right, take your Birkenstocks off. Get in a good Indian style around your coffee table and get you a good, get you a good blow and just watch this. Right, just watch this whenever you want.
Not blow. Weed, not blow.
No, I said blow get you a good blow.
Oh, okay. But no. So
sometimes blow.
Sometimes. I mean, after the show though. But so with this John Gruden thing, I mean, I've kind of spit out some of my ideas what I see. So do you have? Is there anything that anybody that you can think of that stands to gain and why this information would have actually come out in the first place?
I mean, other than the Oakland Raiders, because were the Oakland Raiders on the outs with John Gruden? Was Mark Davis on the outs with John Gruden? And was Mark Davis a billionaire who is privy to all information? If you're not aware of what information billionaires are privy to, here's an answer for you. It's all of it. It's all of it. So they know everything. I mean, they're not fucking around here. These guys are on a whole different level of like dirt. Like they dig dirt to the center of the earth. So the Oakland Raiders, if he was a couple plays away from. I mean, they got their ass kicked, I guess, but a couple plays away from being 4-1. 3-2. I mean, it's not going great, but at the same time, like, such a weird.
You see, and that's the thing, like, because I don't understand, because if this doesn't come out about Gruden, I highly doubt the Raiders are distracted enough that they lose to the Bears yesterday. So now we're looking at, realistically, the Chargers and the Raiders running the division. The Broncos are going to start falling to the bottom. Like, that's just, it's going to happen. I'm sorry. As much as I would like to say, maybe the Broncos are going to have a year, they're not going to have a year.
Like Thanos, it is inevitable. Yep.
And can happen in a snap. But, I mean, Kansas City doesn't even if they're in a wild card, even if they make the wild card, they still make the playoffs. And they're getting 2 buys this year, so it's not like they're really worried about that extra rest before they go into it. Like so
Tony, I'm worried about the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's just talk about that. Yeah. We talked about it last week, but I'm worried about the Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is running for his life. He's running for his life. And when he starts running for his life, it literally becomes, oh, I'm just better. I mean, why wouldn't I just be better than everybody else? And most of the time, he is. Watch the games. He'll do some fucking stupid shit. Like, he'll roll out, pump fake twice, run for 15 yards, and you're like, okay, you just did that by yourself. And he's like, yeah, I can fucking do it by myself. And then he starts believing that he can do it all by himself with his hip lean. He's got that hip lean to him. He's very feminine, and I love it.
He does have a very fluid, almost feminine. Like,
I love it. Like, he's like,
yeah, I'm not criticizing it. Not saying it's a bad thing, but he's definitely it's a very and now that could come because I know, like, Brittany, his fiance wife, I can't remember if they're married or not yet. I know, like, because she's a personal trainer, she's into yoga and all that stuff, and obviously she helps take care of him with the injuries. It would not surprise me if some of that does come from the fact that, because I mean, they've been together since they were in high school. So he may have some of that may have just developed from all of that time that they have spent together and the work that she has done with him, keeping him in shape.
It's so swaggy too. Like, just
I mean,
swag, like, just hand on his hip. He don't give a fuck, dude. Like, just hand on his hip, legs together. He looks like Dontrell Willis below the waist. Just out there, just loosey-goosey, big old thighs, just like, oh, they're so loose all the time. Like, and that's good. That's a good thing. Flexibility is so underrated in football, dude. Like, I remember when I was playing, dude, I literally used to think out loud in the middle of plays. I used to be like, good thing I'm fucking flexible, man. That dude would have ripped my knee apart. That dude would have tore my hamstring off of my leg if I didn't stretch. Like, if I was not flexible, he would have, you know what I'm saying? Like, some of that stuff is, and that comes back to the David Boston, all the muscle stuff, and where you can't stretch them out enough. But
right,
he just tries to do too much because he's so good. It's Aaron Rodgers-like, but A-Rod was never a runner, though, either. So A-Rod doesn't really want to get out of the pocket. He just wants to just use that arm talent to just do whatever he wants, and it is detrimental. It's detrimental to his game because Brady's best thing is Brady throws on a straight line. He gets it out of his hand. It's quick. It's efficient. And he knows what works. He's not trying to just make plays and everything's just at random. And there's some, sidearm throw and shit. He doesn't have to do that.
No.
He's just processing.
I think, I do think that play style does come into it. I think, staying mobile to kind of look at the difference in the throwing lanes and that way you can get the ball in at the right angle. That's why I don't hate that part of his game. But in the same regard, like his decision making previously was a lot better than it's been this year. His accuracy is not as good as it was last year. And that's why I said during the sports report, Patrick Mahomes is going to have a regression year.
He's going to have to at some point.
And it has to happen at some point. Brady had them.
To break him back to snap him back into it. Like, hey.
Right. Because
you're not God.
Right. He's getting too far from the box that he's supposed to stay in.
Right.
It's okay to be here. You should not be here. Like, I mean,
he's learning very quickly that he plays in a professional league. And that's the amazing thing about Patrick Mahomes, dude. The fact that he has to snap back into the fact that he is playing in a professional sports league because he's so good says a lot about Patrick Mahomes. Let's just say that off. I'm going to sit here and bag on him. I'm going to bag on him for a second, but I'm also going to tell you that, like, the only reasons why this guy is having a little bit of a down year is because he understands how good he is. And everybody else understands how good he is. At this point, it's literally just like he's almost over-realizing the greatness. He's
Right.
like over realizing.
And when the thing of it is like the Patrick having an off year, which can happen to anybody. It's perfectly normal. It does happen to everybody. Nobody's perfect. Every player, even, whoever you consider to be the greatest player of all time in whatever sport, had an off season. It happens. So, but it would be less obvious if that secondary wasn't so fucking horrible. And if that defensive line could stop a goddamn run play.
Yeah. Chris Jones and his dick need to get back onto the field.
Oh, my dick came out.
My dick came out. Chris Jones and his dick need to get back on the field.
I do think that that's going to make a difference for the Chiefs is when Chris Jones and Frank Clark come back. But you still have, even once you shut down the run, that's great. But you're still going to have to deal with the fact that you have Honey Badger on one side of your secondary, but Dan fucking Sorensen on the other side. All you have to do is just throw to the player that's not guarded by Honey Badger, and you're going to get deep plays.
Don't ever trade for the guy named Dan because Dan rhymes with man and men jerk off. Don't ever date a guy named Dan or sign a guy named Dan or play him at safety, especially if he's white. Honestly, let's be honest. He is the biggest. He's like the biggest. Like, oh, let's still say he plays safety. That dude's a Nick. He's a nickel linebacker.
I would say he should be an interior linebacker at best. Like, you're not.
He can run. He can run.
Exactly, but you can use him if you use him as an interior linebacker. You can put him behind. You put Chris Jones and Frank Clark back in the middle of that fucking defensive line where they fucking belong. And then you put Dan Sorensen right behind him. And you say, all right, your job is to stay right the fuck there.
But also like a rover position though too, where you can move him outside. Yeah, he can cover tight ends. Yeah, he can cover backs.
Oh, you're playing Lamar Jackson? Okay, we're gonna put Dan Sorensen on spy. That he can handle. You can't put Dan Sorensen covering the deep ball.
Dan Sorensen is the poor man's version of Derwin James. Okay. Yeah. This is what they're trying to do. Dude, Derwin James impressed me. So, like, the Chargers safety, Derwin James, is one of the biggest safeties I've ever seen in real life. Like, I was right next to him, and I was like, whoa, you are a large man. Like, he is huge, dude. And it is the weirdest thing to watch him move because you're like, oh, shit. It's like Ed Reed. Like, it was like he moves. He can move. He can run. And, like, you got Dan Sorensen back there just fucking shit up the entire time, right? But he makes a big tackle and everybody's like, yay, go Dan.
And that's the thing, like, there have been flashes where Dan Sorensen was great.
Playoffs last year.
In the playoffs last year, their run to the Super Bowl the year before, Dan Sorensen had a key piece in those. But here's the thing. For those periods as well, there have been plenty of us that are realists that have been talking about the fact that Dan Sorensen is actually a fucking liability.
He's been a weakness for a second.
He's been
realistically in a real scheme. He's been a weakness for a second.
Yeah,
I get throwing him in like we were talking about. I get throwing him in at outside linebacker. I get throwing him in a half coverage situation like a 3rd and 3, a third down nickel linebacker who can play the run. And also cover a running back or a tight end out of the backfield. He's perfect for that.
Yeah.
Why is he playing 49 plays a game on a defense?
He should not. You see, here's the thing. If you're going to have him as a safety or as a corner, which is fucking stupid, but let's go ahead and entertain this. He should not be on any play where there's even a consideration of a deep ball. Put him on special teams and goal line D.
Unless you're dropping him into thirds coverage, like he's got a third of the field deep in the middle, I'll take that. Other than that, no. He shouldn't even be outside of the numbers. No. Like, drop him back deep and let him use his instincts to get to a ball. I get that. and he's a hard hitter. He's a bigger dude. Guy weighs 235 pounds. It's a big safety.
You can put him. I mean, if you're going to use him in like an interior situation and to cover more of the middle, which is a more reasonable spot to use Dan Sorensen if you're going to, which Kansas City doesn't have a lot of choices, so they kind of have to. They would kind of have to anyway. But you could put him 5, 7, 10 yards back. 5 if he, the closer he is, the higher chance of a rush that play is.
He needs to be a situational rover, is what they would call it in a college scheme. They would call it a rover, basically like a linebacker safety.
When they send him out, he looks at Tyrann Mathieu, and Tyrann Mathieu goes, "Go stand over there and don't fuck shit up." And he goes and stands over there and doesn't fuck shit up.
About 10 yards deep. And if you get a tight end out of the backfield, if you get a running back out of the backfield, if you get a curl route right there, go attack it. We're not trying to make you run with people right now.
No.
Why is he running with people?
Here's the thing. With the way that he is speed wise, he is not a deep ball. He's not somebody that you can use to cover the deep ball. But if you have him in the middle, working the run, run blocking, pass rush, or possibly covering, like you said, the tight ends, the curl routes, the running backs out of the backfield, running the zig or whatever. You have him cover that because he can transition over to that quickly and pick that up, but you don't want him deep because those wideouts that they're sending are running 4.25 40s, and he's a 4.35 4.4 at best.
Dan Sorensen at this point is a 4.7 4.8 guy. I watched that guy run. Yeah.
But I mean, even 2 years ago, when he was in more of a prime position, he was still at best at like 4, 4.6, 4.5. Yeah. I mean,
I'd say 4.6, 4.7. Honestly, because he's huge. Honestly, I mean, he's a bigger dude.
I'm not saying that, and that's why he's not faster. But you are giving away points when you're using Dan Sorensen to cover the deep ball. You're just giving them the fucking deep touchdown. Just
why are you pulling him into anything? Here, Tony. Well, we're gonna tie a couple things together real quick. We're gonna tie John Gruden to the Kansas City Chiefs right now, and I'll do it right here. Every time that Dan Sorensen makes a play on the ball, most people think, wow, that's a smart play because he's white. When Derwin James makes a play on the ball, they say, wow, that was a great play because he's athletic. Okay? Here's the kicker there. Do you think Dan Sorensen didn't think like, oh, I just wish I would have made that play if I were, smarter, right? He's not. Derwin James is just doing things that Dan Sorensen will never be able to do on the whole. And it's not like Derwin James just goes out there and picks off a ball in the middle of the field, dives out for it, and Dan Sorensen's on the sideline going, oh, I wish I was smart enough to make that play. You know what I'm saying? Like, what? So we're making, like, Derwin James is using athleticism and his intelligence. At the same time, Dan Sorensen had to use his intelligence because he's obviously probably not as athletically skilled as Derwin James.
And that's what I think is. I think that and that's one of the reasons why people are so critical of Dan Sorensen. He does not have the athleticism that he needs to play in that position. And it's one of the reasons why I still say Kansas City should have tried to pick up Richard Sherman.
I need to get more black guys in that secondary, Tony. That's what I need. You remember that old college interview with that high school coach, or is it like a college coach where he's just depressed, dude. Like he's like it's a white coach. This is one of my favorite interviews. If you guys haven't seen it, look it up. It's my favorites. He loses the game like 58-0, and he's literally like sitting at the podium and he's like, oh, and like they're asking him questions. He's like, I don't know. He's like, I don't know. He's just bummed out. And literally like, what do you think you can do to defend the pass better? And he's like, I don't know. We need some more black guys in our secondary. He's totally serious. And I'm like, dude, he's not wrong. He literally says, he's like, oh, I just need some more black guys. And I'm like, duh. What? how is that even? There's no way that that's even racist to say. They're just like it's obvious at this point. I just love how he's just like, oh, I don't know. She's more black guys, I guess. Well, he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong. Yeah, but
is that what Salt Lake City says about trying to get their basketball team more popular?
Let's get the opposite side of that, Tony. Does Dan Sorensen have a job anymore if he is black?
Honestly,
as a safety.
Honestly, I don't think Dan Sorensen should have a job.
I know
I can see what you're saying. I can see what you're saying, and honestly, like, I don't know that he would not have a job, but I could understand there being more aggressive criticism earlier, and at least, but I think this comes down to, and I legitimately believe this, because when you look at an organization like Kansas City, they sometimes, now obviously the Steelers are the worst at this, but Kansas City does have a track record of keeping players that they shouldn't have because they liked them.
Because the fans like them.
Because some of the fans like them, right? But when you look at, but now the one thing that I will say though, and this is something like that's been talked about, like with the whole Brady and Belichick era of New England, and then there was some criticism that Belichick didn't talk to Brady in person when things were closing, and one of the things that was discussed, and I saw it on ESPN, I might have seen it on something on the NFL Network, is Bill Belichick treats his players like employees. When it's time for you to get fired or it's time for you to get traded, that's just the way that it is.
Good job.
Thank you for your service. Have a good day. It's a business. It is a business decision. That's all it is. And so, but we look at teams, and they built this consistent dynasty. The consistent dynasty of winning. Like we can't deny that. We can't hide from it. And so now we pivot to Pittsburgh Steelers, who should have gotten rid of Ben Roethlisberger 3 years ago.
Yeah.
They should have, Mike Tomlin should probably be looking for another job at this point. Like, let's be honest here. I'm not saying Mike Tomlin's a bad coach, but he should be coaching for a different team.
Guys never had a losing record.
And then you look at Kansas City. Pittsburgh has a great winning culture, but they can't seal the deal. Kansas City has only sealed the deal once in the last 50 years.
Yeah, sorry, jinx.
Okay. And so to look at this, there are players that Kansas City holds on to longer than they should. Kansas City kept Larry Johnson longer than they should. Priest Holmes, they tried to bring him back again, and they shouldn't have. They should have let him retire.
Yeah.
Trent Green got to stay longer than he should have.
Yeah.
This is probably, as a Chiefs fan, my biggest critique of the organization. Bob Sutton got to keep his job in Kansas City a year longer than he should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And
Bob's a nice guy.
I'm sure he obviously is. But
you can't. And I love the vibe that the Hunt family puts out for the Chiefs organization. It's a family environment, right? I get that. But you also have to consider that one of the dumbest decisions that you can make in business is doing business with family.
Yes.
And so this is why, like, after learning about Belichick's method, the way that he sees it, and why he does things the way that he does,
it comes off
makes
as
sense.
harsh. Yeah, it 100% makes sense.
Like,
Absolutely.
I love Andy Reid, and I love having a coach for this team that can be, one of the faces of the organization that is quite possibly the most liked coach in the NFL.
I don't think there's never been.
I
Andy
mean,
Reid is hands down.
Nobody has ever come out and said anything negative about Andy Reid at all.
He's the player's coach.
He is the poster child of being a player's coach.
Yep,
without question. And so now,
also a fucking genius.
And I mean, yeah, and scheme wise, he's a genius. They always look at different things. He's always willing to try different things, just because.
That
why
inside
not?
That inside pitch stuff that everybody does now. Mm-hmm. That little where they pull the tight end and they to Kelsey. Everybody runs that now. That's a new play now.
That is a brilliant piece. That is just one of the pieces of brilliance that has come out of Andy Reid. But in the same regard, you have to look at as an organization, the Chiefs as an organization, they need to be more cut and dry with player transactions. Because if you don't, you get situations like Dan Sorensen in your fucking secondary when speed-wise, he should not. He should be in the middle of the field.
Right.
No.
And because he's a crowd favorite.
If you want to keep him because he's a crowd favorite, position-wise, he should be a linebacker. But honestly, I'm one of those where when you spend this much time fucking up your job, it's probably time to get fired. So maybe when he gets out, maybe he gets a fresh chance to do that in the interior on another team.
Keep Dan Sorensen on the roster. I'm not saying Dan Sorensen is not an NFL player.
I'm willing to entertain.
We're not saying.
I mean, I can kind of see the push to have him out. And with the feelings of Dan Sorensen the way it is, I can kind of see why it might not be a bad idea to send him to another team. But any other team that touches him, he needs to be a linebacker, not a defensive back.
I think they can do that in Kansas City, Tony.
I think they can. I absolutely think they can.
If it wins them games, I don't think those fans care anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like just still introduce him as a starter, as a safety, and then play him at somewhere different. Like that's all you have to do.
If you're gonna play him as a safety, you're gonna list him as a safety, still play him in the middle of the field, 5 to 10 yards from the line of scrimmage is as far as you want him to go.
In zone coverage, playing running backs and tight ends, he would be perfect.
Exactly.
He is not supposed to be out there running with CD Lamb.
No. And that's the thing is Tyrann Mathieu's frustration. Like there's that stuff that's been going around Facebook today with all the pictures of Ty Matthew being frustrated because of Sorensen not fucking covering properly. Okay. I get it.
Issue. That's a huge issue.
It is.
And just to preface it, Tony, just to anybody who's listening, I went to the game a couple weeks ago with the Chargers in Arrowhead. It was very telling of the Kansas City Chiefs. Dan Sorensen, they introduced the defense. They either offense or defense. They introduced the defense, and Dan Sorensen got the biggest applause. He is an absolute crowd favorite in Kansas City. Make your own assumptions on those reasons why. I'm not going to say them out loud right now.
I mean,
I'm not going to say them out loud right now because I feel like
we've lived in that area, so we both know that that's entirely possible. I'm not saying it's right. It shouldn't.
We're not saying it's right, but we are saying it's a thing.
It's a thing.
It's definitely a fucking thing.
Kansas City needs to start making business decisions based on business, because I can understand wanting to make sure that you have a good vibe in the locker room. I get that. It's important. But there are a lot of different guys that can meld in that locker room. And because of the fact that that is a very intelligent locker room, a guy like Richard Sherman would have been perfect.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect.
And Sherman,
it's savvy locker room.
A very savvy locker room. There is so much game knowledge and technical knowledge just from the players in that locker room. But then you come in with the coaching staff that is run by Andy Reid, all of the knowledge that those guys have in that room, in those position rooms. Like, how did I don't hate the Josh Gordon signing. He looked decent for what he could do last night. A couple of good catches and clutch moments, holding on to the ball, taking the hits. Taking the hits. But
count it.
Count it.
Count it.
But he looked decent. But how in the fuck has there not been something done on that fucking defense?
Tony, here, at some point we're going to have Tyrann Mathieu on the show. I'm just going to make an empty promise.
We're going to get D. Ross to make some phone calls for us. Is what
D. Ross is going to have to make some serious phone calls. We will get Tyrann Mathieu on the show. No, seriously, if we ask Tyrann Mathieu right now, and he was completely honest with us, he would never tell us this, but I'm just saying in his own mind, if he hasn't thought the exact same thing we just talked about, if he hasn't, why in the fuck am I in cover 2 with 4 wideouts? Cover 2 with 4 wideouts with Dan Sorensen, a 6'2", 240-pound safety. Why am I in cover 2 with him right now? And if nobody knows what cover 2 is, that's literally the safeties are going to cover half of the field while there are 4 wide receivers. And usually it's not man underneath. We're talking these guys are going to be one-on-one with some dudes who have some absolutely it's as fast as you've ever seen a deer run. Has anybody ever seen a deer run? That's as fast as these guys are. Like, they're literally that fast. And this guy's back here at 240 pounds. They know this is not fair. Like, that's why they're getting torched right now. And what if you think that hasn't entered Tyrann Mathieu's mind? And what we just talked about with Kansas City and the crowd and all that stuff, it absolutely has. He's smart. He knows.
It has to. And the other thing that I keep thinking about is when you look at this situation now, and you look at Tyrann Mathieu. Okay, I live in Arizona, so the name of Tyrann Mathieu has followed me for a long time. I've been hearing that name for a long time.
Resonates down there in Arizona.
It is a very popular name down here. But
Honey Badger.
When we look at the Honey Badger and all the production that he's done, because there's no denying that Honey Badger shuts it down. But now he's sitting there and he's having to do all of this and possibly have to be almost Patrick on the other side and do more than he should have to because of shit like this. So what that's going to mean is he's going to be in a lot shittier of a mood when he sits down to negotiate that contract and see what Kansas City has to offer.
All that stuff is going on internally. And the worst part is we don't really know because that stuff's not something that we get to be around every day. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's frustrating. It really is. It's like, I just want to go kind of see, and that Hard Knocks is showing on HBO. Obviously we talked about it.
Yeah.
It just gives you kind of an inside look at like these dudes' personalities, how this locker room is, how influential these players are to that locker room and everything. And right now there is a little bit of a dysfunction. And I wouldn't even say it's because of Patrick Mahomes, obviously my adopted son, but I would say that there's dysfunction because of this defense. And there's a common misconception. Tyrann Mathieu speaks his mind. Always has. 65% of the earth is covered by water, Tony, and the other 35 is covered by Tyrann Mathieu. So This dude is all over it. This guy knows what he's talking about. He's doing it. He's been doing it since he was at LSU, man. He almost won a Heisman Trophy as a defensive player.
And that's the thing is that's basically a quarterback award, kind of like the MVP. So and that's the thing is that's why in this, I am most worried about Tyrann Mathieu because I don't want to, as a Kansas City realist sports fan, I don't want to lose Tyrann Mathieu on the defensive side of the ball, because Tyrann Mathieu is going to be able to be there to help these next guys that they're going to be drafting get ready, so that when it is time for him to retire, which is going to come at some point, those guys have that knowledge and that vision that Ty has. If you lose that mind on the defensive side of the ball, how bad Spags is as a fucking defensive coordinator is going to become a hell of a lot clearer that quick.
Well, but here's where I'm torn on that. 2 years ago, we were praising Steve Spagnuolo, praising him for an excellent run of absolute fuckery to offenses. That guy was fucking people up, but was it because he had all of his pieces in place? And was that defense more talented with the D Ford and the Reggie Ragland and all those guys? Was that defense more talented? And was he just playing schemes? And did he get lucky? All right. Did he just start making guesses and get lucky? Or is Steve Spagnuolo not the answer for the Chiefs? Or is it's definitely a personnel issue, which we've discussed for a second now.
I saw some interesting numbers today. And again, this was from Farzan Vukanian. I can't remember how to say his last name. But I follow him in his Facebook page. And one of the things that he said, 2019, and this is true, 2019, they had the 30th or 31st defense in the league.
It was bad.
The year that they won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But they were also first in sacks.
And in the playoffs, in the 3 games, Spags was all over it. Every game was a masterpiece. He was pitching masterpieces to these guys. He had the personnel to do it, so it makes it easier. But at the same time, you can't take it away from Steve Spagnuolo.
No, and he did that. He did that. But the truth is now he isn't doing it. These teams are aware of what he's going to do. This comes back to some of that with the Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes being under pressure that we've talked about. Andy Reid's getting kind of predictable too. And so now you have to, and the reason why I'm so critical of Spags is Andy Reid is just getting predictable, and he's been here for 7 years. Spags is in year 3.
Yeah.
And they had his number last year too.
Yep.
So he's not adjusting his scheme and building on it and expanding on it. And he's also not making in-game adjustments. If you look at that game last night and you watch the first half and then you watch the second half, it's the same defense the whole time.
Yeah.
They didn't make adjustments.
Any decent NFL quarterback is going to absolutely pick that apart, just straight. And like we said, is it because of personnel? He doesn't have my dick came out Chris Jones. Okay. He doesn't have Chris Jones, who's one of the best defensive linemen in the NFL. Clearly. One of the top 5 defensive. So he doesn't have him. He doesn't have let's jump off sides D Ford. But
it's Frank Clark. He doesn't have him. He doesn't have Frank Clark. D Ford's gone.
I was talking about the Super Bowl, I think, wasn't it?
But the AFC Championship.
Right.
But
Brady.
And then now the offense, like the offensive line is still a problem. Like it has been getting somewhat better, but like, and props to Joe Thuney. I don't know if you saw this. He broke his hand on the first possession, got a cast on it, and finished the game.
Play with that club, baby.
And
play with that club.
You know, I completely respect that, because to be playing that game with a broken fucking hand, and it's not like when you're, you know, it's not like he's just like a tight end where he doesn't have to go down into a 3-point stance.
Every play.
Every play he's down.
He just switched his hand.
So okay. So he switches his hand.
That's not a normal stance.
Yeah, that's not a normal stance. And
that's really weird for him.
He's not stable. He doesn't have the energy and the kick coming out of that stance to hit his assignment
at all. And he's uncomfortable. Yeah, he's uncomfortable. He can't fire off the ball.
But
right.
But that's if he had to switch hands. So if it was his offhand that he doesn't go down in, that's still great. But you also have, it's a broken fucking hand. You realize that means that he was on painkillers the entire goddamn game. So he was not as aware and quick responsive, you know, and his reflexes weren't as quick because he was on fucking drugs.
And he couldn't feel anything. Like he literally couldn't feel anything. So that is not a good way to play in contact sport. It's not a good way to play it.
No,
honestly, you would think like, oh, you know, it can't feel anything.
That's the one.
Not a good thing.
Really the one where you shouldn't play it because that's even more dangerous.
Well, Tony, also the 3 rookies that they started on the offensive line. When did everybody think that was going to be a great idea? You know what I'm saying? Like people were just like, oh, let's not worry about the offensive line because we got Tooney and we got our left tackle. We got our left tackle. We got our left guard. Let's not worry about the whole right side, which were all rookies at the beginning of the season.
And here's the thing. Orlando Brown is not doing as good as he should be doing.
Orlando Brown's too big.
He should be on the – I'm sorry, but you need to put Orlando Brown on the right side.
He's too big. Like, look at Andrew Whitworth from Los Angeles. Big, you know what I'm saying? 77 from Los Angeles. Big dude. Tall, lean. I saw him on the Colin Cowherd show. Says he doesn't lift weights. Hasn't lifted weights for 10 years. It's literally just about him keeping cardio and strength training, like just natural movements. That's all he does is like in practice and stuff, right? And it's not about him being strong or anything. It's about him blocking somebody from like quite literally just blocking somebody from doing something. So like he just wants to be as big as he can, as wide as he can, and as athletic as he can be. And Trent Brown's out there at 6'8", 350? Like that dude is gigantic. He's huge. Orlando Brown. Sorry, not Trent Brown. Orlando Brown. Just huge. You have to be mobile. Yeah, you have to be mobile. You have to be mobile. Andrew Whitworth's great still. He's 40 years old.
And that's and you're exactly right. But okay. We've done an hour and 10 tonight. I think we need to call it. But
I'm overruling the calling.
We are going to be so we are going to be calling for those watching and those watching after. We're going to be calling the first season of Sports Report After Dark, not next week, but the week after. A little bird has told me that we might have a special guest for that last episode of the season. I know a guy, you know.
We know some dudes.
We know some dudes. But we will have, you know, we will do that. And then and honestly, it's more just I need a break during the holidays, not as much work. But after, I would say probably March, April, when baseball's going again, college football's getting ready. We're starting to see some of these things settle out, starting to work towards the draft for the NFL. We'll be bringing it back and bringing the heat. But for the night, Dan, any final thoughts?
Fuck you, Tony.
Fuck the Yankees. Go Red Sox.
Hey, go Red Sox, man. Hey, let's get them through there. Let's get them through there. It's all right. If they win the World Series, it makes the Yankees look bigger, look better.
Because at least they lost to the World Series champion, right? But I
pull your 84 jerseys out.
I don't know.
Aaron Hernandez jersey, bro.
You have an Aaron Hernandez jersey?
Yeah. Look.
Oh, that's okay. Sorry.
No, it's not. It's not.
As I say, that's what I thought. I just said that wasn't his number like 25 or something.
Fuck you, Tony. Go to sleep.
But for myself and for the Dick, have a good night.
Fuck the Red Sox.